Valentine's Day, 1999, Hong Kong. The streets are full of couples, flower stalls, and the smell of chocolate drifting from shop doorways. The city itself is dressed up for this annual celebration of love. But 23-year-old Lau Chi-sing isn't thinking about any of that. He's walking toward an apartment building in Taihing Estate, Tuen Mun, with a bad feeling he can't articulate. His closest friend hadn't picked up the phone in days, so he's on his way to check in on him. He knocks, no answer. He calls his friend's name, but again, nothing. And then, just at the edge of his perception, there's a smell. Faint smell, barely there, but definitely unpleasant. Like something rotting. But it's hard to know for sure. The smell passes like a breeze and disappears. And Lau Chi-sing almost convinces himself he's just imagined it. It's possible his friend is just not home, but Lau still can't shake that bad feeling, so he doesn't leave. He calls his friend's younger brother, the one with the spare key, but when the brother arrives, the key doesn't fit. The lock had been changed. So they call the police, and what the police find will be discussed for years to come. This is the Tuen Mun salt murder. I'll be honest with you, for this channel specifically, I have to Google some deeply questionable stuff for research, like genuinely disturbing, censor, like why is this person searching this kind of stuff? And it's literally my job. But try explaining that to whoever might be monitoring your connection. So yeah, I looked into online privacy more than the average person probably would. And that is what led me to CyberGhost VPN. And they are sponsoring today's video, but I also want to tell you that this is something I actually use. What won me over is just how simple it is. You turn it on, it encrypts your traffic and routes it through a secure server, and that's it. It just runs quietly while you do your thing. And this isn't some niche tool. Over 38 million people use CyberGhost worldwide. It has thousands of reviews on Trustpilot, rated by over 23,000 real users. A few things I specifically like: servers in 100 plus countries, so you can change your online location in 2 clicks, and unblock libraries of 40 streaming platforms. It's also great if you travel, and one subscription covers up to 7 devices, so your whole setup is protected, not just one. And you can even share with your family and friends. And the price is also one of the reasons why I am using it. Through the link in the description, it's just around $2 a month. And honestly, when I saw that, I thought, why wouldn't everyone just have this? It's less than basically anything. For something that protects your privacy every single day, it feels like one of the easiest decisions you can make. Plus, there's a 45-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it with 0 risk and see for yourself. Link is in the description, and I really do think you will like it. All right, let's get back to today's story. When officers force the door open, the apartment looks quiet, except for the walls, which are stained with something dark that has long since dried. In the corner, they find a metal trunk. An officer steps forward and lifts the lid. Inside is a mountain of white salt, and buried beneath it are human remains. The body of a man, dismembered to fit into that cramped space. But his face is completely recognizable. It's Lau's friend, 22-year-old Chiang Wai-man. He's been dead for 4 days, and someone who knew him, someone with a key to this apartment, had tried to cure his body in salt so that nobody would ever find him. The question was who? But before we get to that, we should talk about Chiang Wai-man. Chiang was the kind of man that people describe very differently depending on how well they knew him. To his close friends, and he had many, he was loyal to a fault. He was the person you called when you needed help, and he would show up, no questions asked. But Chiang had another side. He'd left home early and never had much interest in school. He had an awful temper, and as a result, he'd never been able to hold down a job for long. He drifted between part-time work and odd jobs, covering his rent and his expenses with whatever opportunities came his way. And not everything that came his way was legal. Cheung was on the edges of Hong Kong's gang world. He did small things, theft, robbery, nothing that had caught up with him yet. His friends knew it, but they also didn't ask too many questions. Lau Chi-sing, the man who found Cheung's body, was one of his closest friends. The police sat Lau down and asked him to walk them through the last time he'd stopped by to see Cheung. It was February 10th. The door opened, but it wasn't Cheung standing there. It was a woman. She was young, beautiful but cold, composed and difficult to read. She told Lau that Cheung wasn't home and asked him to leave, quickly. Lau left. The police leaned forward. Who was she? Lau told them it was Cheung's girlfriend. He didn't know her well. She kept to herself and never really mixed with Cheung's friends. But Lau knew her name, Yik Po Man. The police had a face. They had a name. What they didn't have was Yik Po Man. However, on February 17th, a man walked into a police station in Hong Kong and gave the police exactly what they needed, a lead. His name was Lau Quan Hua. He was a painter, not someone from Cheung's world at all. Lau Quan Hua told them that he just received a phone call from a friend of his named Yik Po Man. She had admitted to killing someone and asked him for help, but he couldn't do that, he said. He told her to turn herself in, and then he'd headed to the police station. They told Lau Quan Hua, don't let her know you've spoken to us. If she calls again, agree to meet her. Pick a place. Tell us where. Lau Quan Hua's phone rang almost immediately after he walked out of the station. It was Yik. He arranged to meet her and gave the police an address, a building in Mong Kok, downtown Hong Kong. On February 26, officers moved into position around the building. A woman emerged with a young child beside her. The police closed in. Yik Po Man was arrested without resistance. Her daughter, Yik Wing Yu, was taken into care. So who is the woman at the center of this, Yik Po Man? Yik Po Man was born in Hong Kong in 1980. Her parents were ordinary factory hands working for minimum wage, doing their best in a city that made doing your best feel perpetually insufficient. They loved her daughter. They were proud of her. And they had good reason to be. Yik was, from early childhood, exceptional. She was smart, beautiful, soft-spoken. Yik's positive traits were noticed by neighbors, by teachers at school, and unfortunately by some girls at school who felt more resentment than admiration. They were unkind. They spread rumors about her. And so Yik did what many people do when facing that kind of behavior. She tried to make herself small. She went out of her way to avoid drawing attention. She tried to blend into the background. But it didn't work. At 14 years old, Yik was spotted by a talent scout who had seen her on the street. She got a shot at appearing in a shampoo commercial, and she took it. The product was a hit. Yik's face was suddenly everywhere. The whispers stopped, replaced by a different, warmer kind of attention. A director approached her with a formal contract and a chance at a real career. Yik turned it down. She wanted to stay in school. She wanted a normal life, the kind she'd been trying to hold on to through all the rumors and the bullying. And it meant that she went back to being a regular student. At the age of 15, Yik had a close friend who worked part-time at a karaoke bar. In her spare time, Yik would go and keep her company. Cheung Waiman, who also worked at the bar, saw Yik walk through that door and couldn't keep his eyes off her. He was 18. He found out more about her through Yik's friend, and from that point on, he was deliberate. He started appearing whenever Yik visited. He was warm, easy to talk to, patient. When they were comfortable enough, he invited Yik and her friend to his apartment in Tuen Mun. Then, one evening, he invited just Yik. She trusted him, and so she went. What happened next would later be the subject of considerable time in the courts. Chung forced himself on her. Yik, 15, frightened, and already conditioned by years of learning that drawing attention to yourself only makes things worse, decided not to go to the police. She didn't tell her parents. She was afraid of what people would say about her if they found out. So she kept quiet about it. She carried the pain alone, and she tried to move on. Chung wouldn't stay away. He came back around gradually, steadily, and he told her that what had happened was because he liked her so much, he'd lost control of himself. He apologized. He was smooth, persistent, patient. And Yik, who had no one to tell her that this was not what remorse looked like, eventually believed him. She forgave him, and then she began a relationship with him. Now, this might seem like a questionable decision, but Yik was 15. Chung was an adult who had assaulted her, and who then came back with apologies, with patience, with the careful, deliberate warmth of someone who knew exactly what he was doing. There was a word for that pattern, grooming, but Yik did not have it. She had only the feeling that after suffering rejection from her peers at school, someone had chosen her, and she held on to that. By the end of 1994, Yik was feeling unwell. She'd been feeling sick for weeks, nauseous, exhausted in a way she couldn't explain. She went to the doctor, expecting to hear it was just a bug that had been going around, but instead, the doctor told her she was several months pregnant. The news broke her. She was too frightened to tell her parents, too frightened to face it alone. So she went to Chung. Chung's response was immediate and wordless. He drove her to an abortion clinic. But his plan didn't work out. The doctor refused to perform an abortion on Yik. Her body was too slight. She was too young. An abortion at this stage would have put her life at serious risk. And so she was left with only one option: to have the baby. Yik was terrified of being found out, and so she did whatever she could to pretend that nothing was happening. She went back to school, managing to hide her growing belly beneath her uniform. She kept attending classes. She kept studying. She performed the role of a normal schoolgirl, all while navigating the physical and hormonal changes of pregnancy. In May 1995, Yik gave birth to a healthy baby girl at Chung's apartment in Chunmun. She smiled at her daughter. She was essentially alone. Chung was there, but was not present in any way that mattered. He didn't want the child. He went as far as to tell Yik to give the baby her own surname, because he had no desire to be associated with his daughter. So the baby became Yik Wing-yu. Chung gave his girlfriend a choice: abandon the baby outside a hospital or raise her at her mother's home. Yik begged him to let her raise the child at his home. She didn't want her parents to find out that she'd had a baby. Chung agreed, reluctantly. From that day forward, Yik had an incredibly busy routine. She went to school during the day and went to Chung's apartment in the evenings, where she cooked, cleaned, did the laundry, and cared for Wing-yu. Then she'd leave the baby with Chung and go back to her parents' place at night. Chung contributed the absolute bare minimum to the household and drifted in and out of the apartment as he pleased. When Wing-yu was 6 months old, Yik told her parents she wanted to move out to concentrate on her studies, and they agreed. So she and Chung began living together, full-time. And that is when things got worse. Chung had always had a short temper, but in the apartment, with no job to go to and no one to keep him in check, his rage and his resentment turned toward Yik and the baby. First, he yelled over small things, and then the yelling became something else. He started hitting Yik. She endured it because she had learned that pushing back only led to him redirecting his anger toward Wing-yu. So as a teenager with more responsibility than most teenagers ever have to endure, she suffered his abuse. She kept quiet, and she kept the household running. That's not to suggest that Yik didn't try to leave. She did, more than once. But Cheong's network of friends extended across the city, and every time she found a new place to stay and tried to disappear, they found her. Her situation seemed hopeless. And yet, despite everything, Yik Po-man's brilliance had not disappeared. She completed her preparatory courses while raising Wing-yu. She sat the college entrance exams. She passed with marks high enough to qualify for university. For a single bright moment, she could see a way out. But she had a 1-year-old who needed her, a partner who would not work, and no money of her own. She did not pursue studying at university. She stayed. By 1990s, but Cheong noticed he was always watching her, right? And so Cheong attacked her. Next morning, she took Wing-yu to a nearby restaurant for breakfast. She ate, and she felt calm. Then, on the way home, she stopped to buy several large bags of salt. The logic was simple and desperate. Salt preserves meat. If she cured the body, she would slow the rate of decomposition, suppress the smell, and buy herself some time. She was not wrong about the chemistry. She just didn't understand how little time she was actually buying. She went home and she began. She cut into Cheong's abdomen. The smell hit her like a wall. And then she realized her knife was too dull for the rest of what she needed to do. She stopped. Then she called Lau Quan-Hua, not to confess, but to tell him she needed help moving some things for a friend named Siwai. Lau Quan-Hua came over at around 9 a.m. and saw Yik standing outside with a girl, a wooden ladder, and 2 buckets. He decided not to ask any questions. He drove them to Yuanlong, and Yik and Siwai got out to move things. On the way home, Yik mentioned offhandedly that she'd broken a knife. She needed a new one to chop up some chicken and also a pair of scissors. Lau Quan-Hua thought nothing of it. He helped her buy them in Tuen Mun, then dropped her off at home and left. Yik went inside. In the following hours, she dismembered his body. She cut off Cheong's left hand and left foot. She placed them in plastic bags and that she would dispose of in different rubbish bins in the area. Then she pushed the rest of his body into the box and poured in the salt, bag after bag, until the body was buried in white. She closed the lid. For days, she lived in the apartment with the box. She cooked, she cleaned, she cared for Wing-yu. She went about her life as if she didn't have the body of a man decomposing in her home. The smell stayed faint at first, faint enough to pass for something else in the open air of a hallway. Faint enough, that is, until it wasn't. During the trial, Yik's defense argued exactly what the facts suggested, that she killed Cheong Wai-man in self-defense, after years of sustained physical abuse at his hands in the context of an attack he initiated. She argued that she dismembered the body and concealed it not out of cold calculation, but out of panic, a young mother terrified of what would happen to her daughter if she were caught. The court did not convict Yik of murder. After 7 hours of deliberation, the jury found her guilty of manslaughter and of preventing the lawful burial of a body. Recognition that what happened on February 10th was not the act of a predator, but the breaking point of a person who had been beaten down repeatedly over several years. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Wing-yu was placed in an orphanage. The years passed. And it would be good if I could provide some positive updates, but it's not exactly how things panned out. After some time in the orphanage, Wing-yu was taken in by a foster family who loved her dearly. Still, when her mother was released from prison in 2009, Wing-yu went looking for her. Yik Po-man refused to claim her, telling others she was a distant relative. Years later, after being rejected by her birth mother, Wing-yu was caught carrying methamphetamine. Her foster parents wrote letters to the court asking for mercy, and Wing-yu thanked the police for stopping her before she ruined more of her life. It didn't save her from prison. She was sentenced to 5 years and 8 months behind bars. There are no winners in cases like this. Chiang Mai-man died on the floor of his own apartment. Yik Po-man lost a decade of her life behind bars after losing her teens to a man who took everything she might have been. And Yik Wing-yu, who was a mere toddler when she witnessed the death of her father, also ended up spending time in prison, the result of a chain of terrible events that began before she was even born. So what do you think about this case? Let me know in the comments, and that is all for today. Thanks for watching. And before you go, check out the link in the description if you want to try CyberGhost VPN. They are offering a special deal for viewers of this channel, and it comes to about $2 a month. Plus, there is a 45-day money-back guarantee, so it's completely risk-free.